Welcome back, and let's join me in welcoming Mu'alima Sauda Ismail. Assalamu alaikum, Sauda, and
Walaikum
welcome to
salam.
our final edition of the segment of, I think, iconic Muslimas through the annals of history.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Yeah, it's a little bit sad coming to the end of Ramadan. Inshallah, we'll end off good today.
Okay, so today we're talking about really a very, very intellectual person in terms of being the first female mathematician in Islam. So tell us, who is this iconic sister? And yes, what contribution she had made in the field of mathematics.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Let me take you back to the mid-10th century before we even begin. Baghdad, the Islamic capital built by the legendary Abu Ja'far al-Mansur. This Khalif was arguably the world's greatest patron of science and the person responsible for initiating the world's most impressive period of scholarship and learning since ancient Greece. Baghdad was the center of the Caliphate during the Islamic Golden Age. And the Islamic Golden Age at this time was the 9th and 10th centuries, growing to be the largest city worldwide by the beginning of the 10th century. Baghdad was brimming with knowledge. The Caliph would send his scholars to scour the globe for manuscripts. These books were then translated into Arabic, and he would send out delegations from India to explain their curious 10-digit number system because the Roman numerals were different. The Babylonian system was different, and here came India with their 10-digit number system, and he wanted to learn about that. Dispatching the mathematicians on missions to measure the curvature of the earth, Al-Mansur left no stone unturned in his quest for knowledge. And in this bustling city, we single out one particular home, the home of Judge Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, father of Sutayta al-Mahaamali. This is the woman that we're speaking about, Sutayta al-Mahaamali. This remarkable woman, known for her legal mind as well as her mathematical mastery, a woman of genius, widely celebrated as such by her culture, praised for her abilities by three of the era's greatest historians, sadly reduced to the status of a historical footnote today, because when I mentioned her name, not many of us would have known or heard of Sutayta al-Mahaamali. Today, we honor this woman. Just to give you some insight as to what the Muslim world was like in the 8th century, while Western Europe was languishing in the Dark Ages, the Islamic Empire covered an area larger in expanse than either the Roman Empire at its height or all the lands conquered and ruled by Alexander the Great. That's huge. So powerful and influential was this empire that for a period stretching over 700 years, the international language of science was Arabic. The Abbasid society itself came to understand and appreciate the value of knowledge, which is very much in contrast what we see today. An academic life was indicative of high status in society. So if you were a bookworm, you had a high status. Scientific knowledge was considered to be so valuable that books and ancient texts were sometimes preferred as spoils of war rather than riches. Today, influence is based on money and fame. We don't even know the person behind the face. So it doesn't really matter how much you know in today's day and age. But back then, when Islam was at its golden age, knowledge was everything. The Grand Library of Baghdad, or the Baytul Hikmah, was a major Abbasid public academy. It was an intellectual center in Baghdad that was most likely a large private library belonging to the Abbasid Caliphs during the Golden Age, and then later turned into a public academy during the reign of Al-Ma'mun. Sadly, this House of Wisdom, or Bayt al-Hikmah it was called, and the contents were destroyed. And it was destroyed by the Mongols in the siege of Baghdad in 1258, leaving very limited evidence about what was. So that is why giants like Sutayta, there's not very much on her. So we'll go a little bit into her history, the little that we have. Sutayta was born in this era, this great era of knowledge. Her father being a judge, a qadi, and the author of several books, including Kitab fil Fiqh, Salat al-Aidain. Her uncle was a prominent hadith scholar, and her son later became a qadi as well. We actually know more about her father and her son, and even her grandson, than we do about her. So, from the scraps of information that we have on Sutayta, we learned that the word Mahaamali comes from the word Hamala Yahmilu, or Hamali Yuhamilu, and that is an Arabic word which means to carry, pointing to her family's origins that they were probably porters of goods or even people. So, in that time, from porters, they had moved
Sister Soda, I know Sister Soda said currently in Newcastle there's load shedding. Let's take our break and then let's try and see if we can raise Sister
according to a
Soda.
Zahab.
Okay. Sister Soda, we lost you momentarily, but you're back. So you can carry on for another 2 minutes and then we're going to take our break.
Sure. So I don't know how much you heard. Uh, we're gonna
You
go
can,
back to
yeah, so the surname,
okay.
where the surname
So
comes from.
Sutayta's
And then,
surname Al-Mahamali comes from the word Hamala Yahmilu, which means to carry something, pointing out the family's origins that they were porters, porters of goods. And in time, her family became well established. They became scholars, and they were very established in scholarly circles. And Sutayta had the benefit of then studying from a string of learned teachers. According to Dhahabi's biographical collection, she was not only a scholar, but also a faqiha. She was a student and like a student not only of faqih, but fiqh, but of ifta, so which would make her the equivalent of a female mufti. So she was very, very learned in this field. She was taught by several scholars, including her father, and she did not specialize in just one subject, but she excelled in many. She studied Arabic literature, Islamic jurisprudence, which is fiqh, interpretation and commentary of Quran, and then her love, mathematics. This was a full 200 years before Europe had produced women of comparably broad education and fame. This was happening in this golden age of Islam. Scholars like Ibn al-Jawzi, al-Baghdadi, they praised her for her expertise. Even Ibn Kathir, rahimullah, said that she was the most knowledgeable of her time with regards to the Shafi'i fiqh, and she issued fatwa in the Shafi'i madhab alongside people like Sheikh Abu Ali, who was the son of Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu. She was humble, generous, rushed to carry out good deeds. Despite her being an excellent scholar of deen, she was known for her expertise in mathematics, and rather, she was an innovator in this field. We know that she was widely consulted for her legal and mathematical insight. She solved problems of mirath, of inheritance, and that implies that she had an advanced knowledge of algebra. It is said that she was an expert in hisab, that is arithmetic, and also ilm al-faraid, which is successful calculations, both being practical branches of maths. Inheritance, as we look at it today, might be straightforward, but if you look back many years ago when there were no algorithms for what was stated in Quran, questions of how to deal correctly and distribute the proceeds of the estate was very, very difficult. And many, many years ago, before Sutayta, it was actually solved by a man named Muhammad bin Musa al-Khwarizmi. And this man was the man who combined Greek algebraic problem solving methods with the base 10 numerical system from Indian scholars, which gives us our modern day algebra. So he was actually the forerunner of modern algebra. Would you like me to go on?
let's go for a break. And when we come back, we can continue. Fascinating indeed.
Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
The month of mercy and endless blessings. The month of sharing the love, care, and spreading hope. This Ramadan, you can make it count by supporting one of the many projects by Penny Appeal South Africa. Donate your zakah, lila, fidya, kafara, and fitra safely and securely, knowing that your support goes to those most in need. Give hope. Make every minute count. May all your efforts and intentions be accepted. Penny Appeal, serving humanity, transforming lives.
This Ramadan, spread the love with in the aftermath of the tragic earthquake.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Well, we've scanned the sky and we've sighted the moon, and we welcome the month of Ramadan, when we'll fast together for Allah to help and strengthen our iman. Oh, it was so very long ago in the holy month of Ramadan. Allah sent His message to the world, the holy book of Al-Quran. A light to shine for all mankind, a guide to teach us right from wrong. First revealed on the night of power, with peace until the rising of the dawn.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Welcome back, and today we're discussing with Muallima Sauda, the first female mathematician, and this is, well, we say she's a professor in what we say, probably a distinguished maths genius, and that is Sutayta al-Mahaamali. And let's continue, Sister Sauda.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We continue with the history of Sutayta al-Mahaamali. We said that she was a humble, generous woman who rushed to carry out good deeds, and she was known for her expertise in mathematics. We spoke a little bit of Al-Khwarizmi, and these are names that you shouldn't forget. It is part of your history and your legacy. You shouldn't forget that Islam made very, very huge contributions in the world. So Sutayta made her own original contributions to this world in the field of mathematics, in deen, and to the theory of arithmetic as well. So we spoke about the Indian base 10 numerical system. So this was now in Baghdad. This was the new adoption, or the adoption rather, of the new numerical system. So to get an idea of how fortunate we actually are and blessed to have the Indian Arabic numeral using the base 10 system. If you looked at Roman numerals before and you tried multiplication with this, it would be very, very difficult because of the amount of numbers. And if you looked at the Babylonian base, that was 60, your children we would actually have had to memorize a times table of 1,711, which is very, very different from the 36 times table that's required by our base 10 system today. So the next time your kids tell you how difficult multiplication is, you tell them that they should thank the Abbasid Golden Age for actually bringing in the Indian base 10 system, which really simplified maths. So Sutayta lived many, many years after Al-Khwarizmi, so maybe like about 100. And at this time, it was just after Abu Kamil, who was also a great titan in maths. So if you know maths and its origins and algebra, Khwarizmi and Abu Kamil were huge classical Arabic mathematics titans. It is mentioned that Sutayta had invented solutions to equations cited by other mathematicians. She didn't just solve problems, she created solutions, which would be very a logical extension of the work of Al-Khwarizmi and Abu Kamil. Her knowledge in maths was so advanced that scholars and mathematicians would go to her when they could not solve a mathematical problem. There was no hesitation in learning from her because she was a female. There was no gender bias with regard to how Islamic society viewed intellectual women at the time, because knowledge was revered by the Abbasids, irrespective of who you are. So Sutayta was working in this field and also daily as a sheikha. She was very, very learned in Deen, and she worked with her community. She did not limit herself to being a scholar alone. So with so little to go on about Sutayta, you might wonder why I chose to pay tribute to her today, ending off our Ramadan segments. How did such a woman exist? You know, the historical account speaks of a daughter raised and educated by her father. Not to say that her mother didn't have a hand in raising her with good manners and knowledge. Sutayta's knowledge was defined by her good character, which is what I've stressed on throughout the segments. We said adab first before dini knowledge. So we see then her father taking the lead role of education, right? So that adab was already cemented by her mother. And then we see her father taking the role of education, with education in her life. Initially, I know I began with single mothers who raised illustrious scholars, and those scholars were male. I didn't want my segments to lean only to feminism, or it's got nothing to do with gender bias. I'm just showing you the strength that women have. Islam has afforded women the rights of respect, inheritance, learning, educating others. And in this era, we see women making a huge difference in society, not disregarded for having an opinion. There was no gender bias with regard to how Islamic society viewed intellectual women. And by the way, you can have a gender bias from men and women with regards to, when a woman is very influential or pioneering in a society. So why then are some women prevented from reaching their full potential? If Islam gave us this freedom, why do we still find this? So it's a lack of understanding our beautiful deen, whether it's across cultures or basically it's a lack of understanding our deen. And when there's a lack of knowledge and you don't understand your deen, then you have ignorance, and ignorance breeds fear. So the key thing to remember here is that once your grounding for adab is there, you need knowledge coupled with the remembrance of Allah, right? And beneficial knowledge. Maths was it's a beneficial skill and knowledge to have. You use it in everyday life. So Sutayta's grounding and foundation was a solid one, filled with taqwa. And we've seen this in all the segments. The main figure in her life was an example of what Islam is supposed to be. Her father was a qadi, he was a judge. And then similarly with regards to Imam al-Bukhari, rahmatullahi alayha, she was the main figure in her child's life. Again, cementing that adab. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, same thing. Showing us that children learn by what they see rather than learn by what they are told. So without the characteristics of adab, the respect, humility, generosity, compassion, introspection of yourself, your knowledge will serve you nothing. If all you have is knowledge, it will serve you nothing. So their parents made well informed choices regarding the future of their children, much because they were a present part of their children's lives and they had vision. The father didn't simply say to Sutayta, I'll pay for everything you want to study. Just whatever you want to study, I'll pay for it. And then he just vanished and went into his merchant life or whatever, and there was no active role. There was no bias to restrict him to the role of being a breadwinner only. He made the time to play an active role in the life of his daughter. So we see men tend to hide behind the excuse of being the main financial provider, or when women complain about not having the time to do more meaningful activities with their children. In these segments, we've seen the strength of single women challenge their own expectations and become visionaries, and then change the lives of their children, who in turn change the lives of their communities and the world. And today we learned how a father, a judge by profession, molded his daughter to become a remarkable scholar and a pioneer in her field. Sutayta being in the same league as her male counterparts, has nothing to do with closing gender gaps in Islam. That's not what it's about. After all, Jannah is for both men and women. Seeking knowledge is incumbent on both men and women. It's not that we want women to be like men. We know that men and women bring different skills and perspectives to the home and the workplace. But earning the pleasure of Allah is for everyone. It is for men, it is for women. So these segments have been addressed to, it's for us all. It's for myself first, for parents, irrespective of your gender, for women to recognize their strengths, for men to support them in the pursuit of their education, religious and secular. Use your secular knowledge for the benefit of the deen of Allah, to benefit the deen of Allah. Always link it to Allah. The Muslim Ummah fell from grace when we were not satisfied with Islam as our way of life, when the love of this world occupied our hearts. So Allah help us to come back to the golden ages of Islam. May Allah give us and our children the knowledge and character that Sutayta rahmatullah alayha had, that she personified, and grant us the long-lasting goodness and maghfirah after Ramadan. To all the listeners and to Sister Mariam and producers, may you have a blessed last few days of Ramadan, and Allah accept these segments. It's been wonderful and beautiful.
Summa Ameen, Summa Ameen, Summa Ameen. Beautiful, inspiring, enlightening indeed it was. And inshallah, even post Ramadan, I'd like to continue because these are role models for ourselves, in terms of how to raise, being active parents with visions for our children in the path they should be taking, planning, as well as inspiration for our children, what they can aspire to. And they are on a better footing because today we have lots of options in technology with us, so the struggles of daily life is a little bit easier because technology is made out. We're no longer traveling vast distances to seats of learning, because learning is coming to our homes, inside our homes, indeed, almost instantaneously. Sister Saura, it's a short assalamu alaikum, because I'm going to be speaking to you around about 20 to 4, inshallah, on the amazing, and this time you'll be wearing the scarf of the Colors of Hope project manager and administrator, because there you have the scarf of a muallima, and I'll speak to you wearing the scarf of a project manager in terms of your vision, or not yours, but Colors of Hope vision for the educational campaign. So as a community, as a community activist, as a social worker, as a humanitarian, what is your vision, not only for your own children, but for the children of South Africa? So I'll speak to you, inshallah, in an hour. So, Assalamu alaikum wa
Inshallah.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.